Bruchim habayim. Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be starting a new Masechta and a little bit new method as well. So before we get started, I want to be sure to extend Hakaras Hatov to our learning sponsors. And this is a project that we do here in Torah Or and Boca Raton. And those people who are watching online, it's a very good way to memorialize people who are dear to us, and it's a good fundraiser for the shul. And if you want information about how you could duplicate it in your own synagogue, just respond back to me either on Facebook or on Twitter or YouTube, any way that you can get back to me, and I'll show you how it works. So we have a year of learning sponsored by Learning Friends in memory of Saul Chapman, Yisrael Kalman ben Moshe. A year by the Friends of Judy Garber in her memory, Yehudis Bas Shalom. A year of learning by the Friends of Alvin Greenfield in his memory, Avram ben Yaakov. A month of learning by Melvin and Haran Haller, in memory of his mother, Vega bat Yaakov. A month by B. Pizer, in memory of her stepfather, Avram Michal ben Shmuel Halevi. A month by Josh and Carol Sanborn, in memory of his father, Shmuel Aryeh ben Baruch, and his mother, Chiena bat Aryeh Lev. A month of learning by Andrea and David Dolney, in memory of her mother, Adel Tzina bat Shimshon. A week of learning by Charles Gelfenstein, in memory of his late wife, Menucha Sarah bat Yechiel Michal. A day of learning by Marla and Martin Lippman, in memory of her mother, Leah bat Velvel Chaim. May their neshamos have an aliyah. So when I said we're going to do a little bit different today, is that I asked everybody to take not only the handout, which is the reprint of the Gemara that we're going to be covering, but also Chumash, because I really believe in the power of primary sources that don't take someone's word. If somebody tells you this is what the Chumash says, or that's what Rashi said, if you have the ability to look at it yourself and read it for yourself, that's a lot more powerful, and you're going to find out a lot of times that the information that people have given is not exactly the way that it was originally presented. So we're going to do a little bit of that, and maybe as we get into this new Masechta, maybe we'll do a little bit more with Rashi and Tosfos, and for everybody to see what's going on among all the commentaries on the Gemara. The Masechta we're going to be starting now is Baba Basra. Baba Basra is the third in the three Babas. So it's Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra. Originally it was one Masechta, and it dealt with Jewish civil law. Each of the Masechtas, each of the three have 10 chapters. So it's 30 chapters, 10, 10, and 10. And it was decided at one point to divide them in three, made it less cumbersome, I guess, to learn the topics. So Baba Basra is primarily, you're going to get real estate law, business transactions, laws of inheritance, and so on. And I think we're going to stick with this for quite a while. We've been talking now about how long this class is going to run into the spring and maybe beyond. And we're going to still be in Florida at least till the end of May, so we probably will be continuing at least through Pesach, maybe into May at some point. And it could be, we'll see, that maybe as we get close to Purim, which is going to be in a couple of weeks, maybe we'll take a break from Baba Basra and do something related to Purim. When we get close to Pesach, maybe we'll do something like that. But our main topic is going to be Baba Basra for a while. So the first Mishnah, Baba Basra, that's the first page of your handout. You have the big word, Hashutfin. So this is related to partners, and I'm going to just show you a representation of the way that people lived, how their houses were arranged. This is a typical courtyard of how people how they lived. Their houses were separate, but the courtyard in between. And we're showing you here two because the Mishnah is working just with two, and it could be 4, 5, 6, depending. And some townhouse courts around here are arranged with 12 or 15 or more surrounding a central courtyard. And the way that it worked was that the homeowners each owned their own house. The courtyard was shared in common. Okay, so in this particular case, you have two homeowners, one courtyard, and they are partners in the courtyard, which means any of them could work anywhere within the courtyard. So now suppose you have a situation where one of the partners, or both, decide that they want to separate that courtyard into, now they want, instead of having it shared in common, they want their section and the other person to have their own section. So the Mishnah says, Hashutfin, partners, Sherotzu Lasos Mechitza. So everybody knows what a mechitza is, right? It's a whole topic of controversy. What is a mechitza in a shul? But a mechitza, and we're going to see actually that the meaning of mechitza is not exactly what we think it is necessarily. But basically, if they want to make a wall or a separation in their chatzir, bonin es hakosel be'emtza, they build a wall down the middle, right? So in this case, where we have the two houses, so you see we've drawn a dotted line over here, and I have to give credit for the artwork to my wife Mindel, who just groaned about it. But so they basically want to divide into two. So you see in this one case, this person is growing, he's got a grape arbor there, he's got grapes growing. This one's got, maybe it's an apple tree, I'm not sure. But in any event, you can see that they want, it's for maybe for the benefit of this person, he wants to separate from the other partner. So they basically are going to build a wall down the middle. And if they do build such a structure, so what happens is makom shenahagu livnos gvil gozis kafisin levanin. So there are 4 different types of materials that were used for a permanent wall. It could be stone, and the first one is unfinished stones. They're rough stones. So if you can picture in New England where people have these stone walls around their properties, it's basically rough stones, and they're pretty wide. And then they have gvil is stones that are finished, so they're like polished, so they're smooth. So that they take up less room, right? Then they have gozis, which is that's the smooth stones. Kafisim is half bricks that they could have built it. They could have split bricks in half, and levanim is full bricks. So if they want to use any one of these materials, bonin, it's okay, they can use it. Hakol keminag medina, and they should use the type of building material which was commonly used in that area. So, and if they use these, well, they're different widths, right? So gvil, zenos in gimel tvachim, v'zenos in gimel tvachim. If they're going to use these unfinished stones, which are quite wide, so each of the partners has to give down the middle of the property a space of 3 tefachim. Tefach is a hand breadth, and some say it's 4 thumbs, some say it's the width of the hand, but basically it's like 4 to 6 inches. Each one has to give 3, and because the width of that wall is going to be 6 tefachim wide. So that wall is about, so let's say 24 inches wide. So that means that each of the partners donates or gives to the partnership a 12-inch wide strip to build that wall. So, and if it's begazis, and if it's the smooth stones, which are now narrower, right? They took off part of that stone. So zenos ein tvachayim umechza. So each one gives 2.5 tvachim. V'zenos ein tvachayim mechza. Each one gives 2.5, which means the total width is going to be 5, right? So the first case it's 6. This case it's 5. B'kfisim, and if they're talking about half bricks, zenos ein tvachayim, v'zenos ein tvachayim. Each one gives 2, so the width of it is 4. Bilavainim, but if they're using full bricks, so then they would lay them on the instead of across the wall, the width of the wall, they would lay them lengthwise. So they're full bricks. Zenos ein tefach mechza, v'zenos ein tefach mechza. So each partner gives a tefach and a half. So the total width of that brick wall is going to be 3 tefachim. Lefichach, therefore, im nafal hakosel. So suppose they built this wall and time goes by, and now you had a tornado, like they just had in Alabama yesterday, and the wall got knocked down, right? Hamakam v'havanim, the space occupied by the wall and the materials used to build it, shel shneim, belong to both of them, right? Because they did it in a peaceful way. They built a wall down the middle. Now the wall has fallen down, so the land belongs, that the wall occupied belongs to both, as do the materials. V'chein begina, and so too in a garden, because people who had gardens next to each other also might want to have such a wall. Makam shenagu ligdor mechayev also. In a place where it was common to build walls around gardens, then one partner can obligate the other one to do it. So if I want to have a wall separating my garden from Sheva's garden, and she doesn't want to put up the wall.
I want it.
Pardon?
I want it.
You do want it. Okay, so then no problem. But suppose she didn't want to. She didn't want to bother with it. But if the custom in that area was to build walls, and with gardens, and we'll see why in a minute, it was customary to build a wall separating the two gardens. I can require her to do it, and I can require her to pay her half. Avol bebika, but in the valley where grain was grown primarily, makam shenahagu shelo ligdor ein mechayevin also. So if our property was in a valley where we're growing large fields of grain, and there it was not customary to build a wall, so I can't require her to do it. I might want to have it, but I cannot require her to participate in that wall. Ela im ratza, but if they want to, so then they want to do it. Kones l'soch shelo. So let's say if you have the situation where we have grain fields that are bordering on each other, and I want to have a wall separating my field from hers, and she doesn't want to participate. So what I have to do is I go back into my property and I can build a wall there. So in other words, as long as I'm building it on my side, then I can build a wall. I can't require her to donate any of her land for the purpose of the wall or to share the expense. But if I want it, I can build it, but it's got to be built on mine. And so bonev osa chazis bibachutz, and I need to put a sign on the outside indicating what's gone on here, that this is a wall separating the properties and that the wall was paid for by me, right? Lefichach, therefore, im nafal kosel, because if the wall fell, right, same situation, we have these two grain fields, now comes a tornado, the wall falls down, so even though she didn't want the wall, she could come along and say, hey, that wall, that's half mine, it's separating our two properties, and the land that's on that, underneath that wall, that's also half mine. But because I put a sign up, I indicated that that was not the case, then she really has nothing to say. So in that case, hamakam va'avanim shelo, the land occupying underneath the wall belongs to the person who built the wall, and so to the materials, the stones that went into building that wall. Im hasu midash shnehem, but if they both agree to build such a wall, even though it wasn't necessarily custom to do it there, but they both agree to do it, bonin as a kosel emtza, same type of setup. They build it in the middle. V'osin chazis mikan umikan, and now they put a sign on both sides. Each one has a sign indicating. So now, if the wall ever does fall down, it's clear what system was used, what was the arrangement when they built this wall. Lefichach, therefore, im nafal kosel hamakam va'avanim shashneim. Then, therefore, if the wall falls down, the place occupied by the wall and the materials used to build it belong to both. Okay, starting the Gemara. The Gemara says, Savruha, logically it was discussed, my mechitza, my mechitza, what does mechitza mean? Gouda. Gouda means is a wall. So they're not exactly synonymous, but Gouda is a cheese.
Oh,
Thank
yummy.
you, Marty. That's true. Gouda is a cheese. That's right. But not the same kind of cheese we're talking about here. Luckily, it's not a Swiss cheese, because Swiss cheese has holes in it. That would not make a good fence, right? But Gouda cheese, I guess, would. But anyway, so you have this situation where they say Gouda is, mechitza means Gouda. It means a wall. Kedasanya, we learned in a brisa, mechitzas hakerem shenifritza, the wall of a vineyard that broke, omer lo gedor. So suppose you have a situation where I have a grain field and Karen is growing grapes next to it. Ordinarily, the owner of the grapes, the owner of the vineyard, has to separate himself, or herself in this case, from a grain field at least 4 amos. So again, an amos between 18 and 24 inches, so it's between 6 and 8 feet. And that's really to allow the plow, an oxen with a plow, to go through that space. Because if grain and grapes are growing next to each other, what's the issue? What's the problem? Kalayim. Kalayim, right. So just as we don't wear wool and linen, garments that are made of wool and linen, we also don't grow crops there that the roots of those crops can intermingle. That's kilayim, and that's not allowed. So there has to be a separation between her grapes and my grain. However, if there's a fence between us, we don't have to separate by that 4 amot distance. So now, here we have a situation. I have the grain field. She has the vineyard, and the wall fell down. And it's her responsibility to build the wall, because if she doesn't want to build the wall, she's got to go back 4 amos. So as long as the wall is there, that allows her more space to grow her grapes. So it's on her to build the wall. So let's say the wall fell down, and I call her up, and I say, Karen, you know, the wall fell down, and you need to go back there and fix it. Otherwise, we're both going to be in trouble, because the Isur, the prohibition on kilayim, is on both of us. So it's to her benefit too to put that wall back. So she runs down, because Karen's very efficient, and she puts that wall right away. She puts the wall back up, and so chazara v'nifritza, and again it fell down. For whatever reason, it fell down a second time. Omer lo gedor. And I called her again. I said, Karen, I'm sorry to bother you. I know you're a busy lady, but in the meantime, this wall fell down a second time, and we need to fix it. And she came and she fixed it a second time. And now, nisyaya shemena, and it fell down a third time, and she said, forget it. It's enough already. I'm not going to bother with it anymore. V'lo gadra. And she did not rebuild it. Hareza kidesh. V'chayev v'achrayas. So now this word kidesh, it's an unusual word for this purpose, because what do we think of when we say that somebody was kiddush or makdish something? You're going to use it for the base of mikdash. You're making it holy. You're sanctifying it, right? You're going to separate something to become a carbon, a sacrifice, and yet this word is being used here. So if you take a look, if you open up your Chumash to page 1050. And where we are, we're in Sefer Devarim, in Deuteronomy. We're on chapter 22, chapter Chaf Beis, Pasuk Tes. Okay, everybody got that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Pasuk says, Lo Sizra Karmacha Kalayim, don't grow your vineyard in Kalayim, which is combining one crop with another. Pen tikdash hameleya hazera asher tizra tevuas hakerem, because you're going to have this problem that you will make the mixture, this mixed growth, prohibited. So here we're using the word tikdash, right? So if you look in Rashi, now Rashi is only in Hebrew, but I'm going to help you. Rashi is the small print. It's almost like a script underneath the Chumash. It's separated by there's a line there, and then it says Rashi. You go down the right hand column in Rashi, the third line down. There's a little test that indicates the pasuk that we're reading is pasuk test. The 9th verse. It says kilayim. That's the key word. That's the word that's in the Torah. And he says chita orin v'chartzen v'mapoles yad, that these different kinds of grains that are grown together. And then the word in the Torah, it says pen tigdash. So Rashi says kitargumo. What is the translation of that? Mistaev. And Rashi gets that from Unclus, which is probably the first written commentary on the Torah was written by a Greek convert. His name was Unclus the Ger, and he lived at around 35 to 120 in the Common Era, and he wrote his parish, which is he translates the Torah into Aramaic, and he's right alongside of the Chumash. So if you see the words in the Chumash, the large print, right next to it, just to the right of it, a little narrower column, that is Unclus, and he writes his commentary. It's like a translation, more or less, in Aramaic, and he says, Lo tizra karmacha eruvin, don't grow your crops as a mixture, dilma tistoev, that it might become ruined. And that word tistoev is used in terms of if you have a carbon that for one reason or another cannot be used. So if you, for example, if I was donating, or if I needed to give a sacrifice because maybe I inadvertently committed a particular sin, and then I found out about it, so now I'm obligated to bring a sacrifice to atone for that sin, which I did inadvertently, but I did it. I have to bring a sacrifice. So now suppose the animal that I had separated for this purpose somehow got lost. How it happened, I don't know, but it got lost. And now I want to fulfill my obligation because I'm only there for 3 times a year. I go to Yerushalayim, right? I'm only there for a short time. I can't wait till I find this lamb that got lost. So I get another one, and I'm going to bring the second one in place of the first one. And now I found the first one. It turned up. So I can't sacrifice them both. I have to only sacrifice one. So what you do is you allow one of them to graze in the field. And the expression that the Gemara uses is yira achi istoev, that it grazes until it develops a defect, a blemish. That's they call it a mum, a blemish. And then you can redeem that animal because until it's blemished, you can't. So here's the same word that Onkelos is using, tistoev, which is not exactly the same thing as tikdash, but he's saying that it becomes unusable in a certain way. And and then going back to Rashi, he says, "Targuma tistoev kol davar shenischat nisaev ala adam bein l'shevach bein kagon hekdesh." So anything that is prohibited to a person, whether it's for a good purpose, for a sacrifice, for example, bein l'knai kagon isor, or for something that's not good, which becomes prohibited to you. Nova bo loshen kodesh. This word kodesh can be used interchangeably, whether it's for something you're going to be using for a sacrifice or some substance you can't use. Kamo al tigash bi ki kadish tucha, because you don't come to me because I separated you. So basically, the same word is used. It's kind of an unusual use of it, but we don't really necessarily know the meaning of it unless we look at how the original commentators how they dealt with it, and that's how we get to understand what it means. Okay, so in this case, we're coming back to the fence that fell down, and Karen, unfortunately, says v'chayev b'achariyuso. You are still obligated to put up that fence, and if you don't put up the fence, whatever grapes and grain are close enough together that they could intermingle with the roots has to be torn out, and you're obligated to make good the value of that because it was on you to build the fence. Okay? Alma hezek ria lav shmei hezek. So what is the reason why people want to put up fences in general? Most often it's for privacy purposes. They're not so concerned that the person is going to go into my field and steal my corn that's growing, but basically just so that we don't necessarily want somebody looking at what we're doing and how we're working and so on. So the damage by not having a fence is what they call hezek re'iyah, which is the damage done by seeing. Whereas if I look at you, if I look into your window or whatever, so that causes you aggravation, and that's a damage to you. So that's called hezek re'iyah, and so the Gemara is saying that the reason that they're giving here is not because of hezek re'iyah, but it's because it becomes kilayim, right? So therefore, this idea of hezek re'iyah is not necessarily, it's not considered hezek. Ve'ema, and we might say mechitza. So the word mechitza that's used in the Mishnah, we said it means a wall, right? But the Gemara says maybe not. He says maybe mechitza is plukta. Plukta means a division, a separation, right? It's used very often where people are having a disagreement. They'll say, my plukta, what is the disagreement? So the same way, so that the wall, that we said it's a wall, means a separation. Kidiksiv, and again there is a pasuk, and we're going to open to it in a second. Hutehei machsas ha'eda. So when it's talking about the Jews that went to war, and then they came back with the spoils. So the second one is in Parshas Bamidbar, and it's chapter 31, verse 43. And I'm going to just quickly find that for you. I'll give you the page if you can find it on your own. It's 31:43, which you can find in the chumash that we use here. Okay, it's page 908. Okay, and it says, so he says the word mechza, like mechitza, like we're using, is a division. It means a division. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a wall. It means a division. So therefore, if mechitza does not mean wall, how do we get the idea that you build a wall? So the Gemara says, the kivan the ratzu, and if they want to, bone in esakoso. So they make a division, and they can make a division by just putting boundary markers or something like that. But if they want to build a wall, they can build a wall. And in the case of the wall, once they've agreed to separate the property by marking it off in some way, now Baal Korcha, now you can force it. So if in the case of Karen and me, where we have our grain field and our vineyard, if we've agreed to split, or in the case of these shutfin, these partners that agreed to make a division in the middle of their property, once they've agreed to make a division, now one partner can force the other partner to pay his share to build the wall. So therefore, Alma Hezek Ria Shmei Hezek. So then maybe this idea of visual damage is a damage, right? Because we just said that maybe it's not, because there's some other reason where there's the kalayim or whatever. But here you see the Mishnah says that if the partners are dividing, why are they dividing? They're dividing because I don't want him looking at what I'm doing, right? So therefore, this separation requires a wall, okay? So ihachi, hai sherotzu lasos mechitza. So therefore, if they want to build a wall, a separation, sherotzu lachatzos miboile. So then, why didn't it just say lachatzos? Why did they use the word kosel afterwards, right? Elamai guda. So what is this wall? Bonin es a kosel. They have to build a wall. So then again, they could have said bonin oso. Why does the Mishnah use the language bonin es a kosel? Miboile, they need it for why? Because itan oso, if they just said the word oso, then hava mina b'masifin ba'alma. I want to just think that they're putting boundary markers. If you've ever noticed surveyors working, that how do they know to do a survey around your property when you need to buy a house or sell a house? So there are, all over the country actually, there are concrete monuments in the ground that were placed there many, many years ago when the original towns were subdivided, and the surveyors know where they are, and they'll find one of these boundary markers, and they'll measure from that boundary to your house, and that's how they'll know how they can actually locate the latitude and longitude of your property. So here they're saying that these partners decided just to put markers on the ground and not to build a wall, but once they've agreed to put up a wall, in that case, the Gemara says, "Ba'alma kamash v'lan kosel," that they have to, once they've agreed to mark off the property, they can be required to build a wall. So the Mishnah says, "Bonin es a kosel be'emtza." It says that they build a wall in the middle, right? So the Gemara says, "Pshita, that's pretty obvious, right? If you're going to separate a property, why would you not build a wall in the middle?" He says, "Pshita, right? Lo tzricha." We need this statement. Why? The kadim chad v'ratzi l'chavre. So one partner decided that he wanted to build a wall before the other one, and he came to his partner and he said to him, "I want to build a wall. How about if we go ahead and we build a wall?" So he's asking for the basic permission to build this wall, and then the other one says, "Matzi amarle ki isratzi loch avira b'tashmishta." He says, "I'll go along with like making a virtual separation. So we can mark it on the ground, but I'm not interested in putting up a fence. But once he said already that he's willing to put up a fence, so then it says, Lotis, Ratzi, Loch, Kamash Malon. So then the Gemara says that once he agreed to some separation at all, you can require him to share in the building of the wall. So I want to just go back now to the pasuk that we quoted. That's the original source for this ruling that you can't plant these different crops together with each other. So the Mishnah says, the Torah says, and I'm not going to make you go back and forth, although you could if you want to, going back to page 1050, where it says, and we're going to start with verse number 8, pasuk ches. It says, Ki sivne bayis chadash. Right, if you're going to build a new house, vasisa ma'kel gagecha, and you build a parapet around the roof, and we actually are showing a representation of that because this house on the right has that kind of parapet around the roof. So if you build the house, you should build that. Lo sasim damim beveisecha ki yipol hanofel mimeno, and you have to be careful because you don't want people to fall off the roof. And then it says lo sizra karmecha kilayim, do not plant your vineyard kilayim, which is a combination of two unlike crops. Pen tikdash, right? Hamaleya hazera asher tizra utuvas akarim. Because what'll happen is that you will make prohibited to yourself and to your neighbor the crop that you've grown there. So Rashi here says, if you can find the Rashi in Pasuk Ches, he says, Ki sivne bayis chodesh, when you build a new house, what does that mean? Im kiyamta mitzvah shiluach hakein. So if you come along to the property and you have fulfilled the mitzvah of sending away the mother bird, right? Because there is a mitzvah called shiluach hakein. If you come to a nest and there's a mother bird and there are chicks or eggs inside there, and you want to take the eggs or the chicks, so you're obligated to send away the mother, and then you could take the chicks. And if you've done such a thing, sofcha livnos bayis chadash. So if you are the kind of person that fulfills such a mitzvah, which seems like a simple thing, but it's basically, kind of decency towards other creatures, you're going to have the benefit that you're going to manage to build a new house, usakai mitzvah smaka, and then you're going to have the mitzvah of putting the parapet, the fence around your roof. She mitzvah gareres mitzvah, because one mitzvah leads to the next, right? And this is a quote from Pirkei Avos. V'tagil akarem v'sadeh, and then you're going to have. Well, now you've got a house. You're going to have a vineyard. You're going to have a field. Ulebegodim noim, and you're going to have nice clothing. Lekach nismechu parshios halala, because right after this comes the mitzvah shatnes. Right after that, so makeh gader saviv lagag, and the makeh, this parapet goes around the roof. The Onkelos, and now getting back to Targum Onkelos, who we mentioned before, so he translates the Targum tika. He calls this parapet, he calls it tik. So if anybody knows modern Hebrew, what's a tik? Briefcase, right? So it's something that you carry stuff in. It could go tik shemishamer masha b'tocha, like your briefcase or your suitcase that guards what's inside of it. In that case, ki yipol hanofel. So, and then the way the pasuk says ki yipol hanofel, what does that mean? That somebody fell off the roof? Why does it have to say hanofel, yipol hanofel, repeating the same word? Because roy zelipol, that this person that fell off probably was coming to him, that he fell off the roof. But it says afa pichein, even so, lo tisgalgam yisaso al yodcha. But it shouldn't be on you, even though it was coming to him. Maybe this should happen. But you should build your property the right way, so it shouldn't happen on you. And good things come to good people, and problems come to people who are doing the wrong thing. So basically, that's the message from Rashi. And I wanted to, the reason that I thought a lot about talking about primary sources today is that recently we had a speaker here in the shul, and everybody's entitled to to their opinion, but I'm here today, so I'm going to give you mine. And he said that some of the Meforshim, or the commentaries, or even the Gemara, were acting on their knowledge at the time. And we know that when we look in the Gemara and we get medical advice, a lot of times we're not really required to follow that advice, because the rabbis say sometimes the rabbis of the Gemara are acting as chazal, so they're giving you holy information, and sometimes they're just giving you medical advice based on what they know at the time. And so that's true, but this person basically talked about the fact that when Avraham and Sarah were traveling to the land of the Egyptians, because there was a famine where they were, and it was the famous incident where Avraham told them that Sarah was his sister, not his wife, right? And he did it because he was afraid that if they thought she was his wife, they would kill him to take her, and so on. And so the way that Rashi says at that point is that they say that, so what this person said is that the people in the Egyptians, or whatever nationality they were black and they were ugly, and therefore they would look at Sarah. She was a beautiful white woman, and they would desire her. And he said that Rashi says it's because maybe he never saw a black person, because Rashi lived in the south of France. Maybe he never saw a black person, and he thought that they were all ugly. And so when I heard that, it kind of, I said, how does he know that Rashi never saw a black person, and how does he know they're ugly? But anyway, then he also quoted in Bamidbar the incident with Miriam and Aaron regarding Moshe's wife Tzipporah, who was also a Cushite. She was also dark-skinned, and they said that, and this person said that she was ugly too. So I said, okay. What? No. So I said to myself, I'm going to look for myself, because I didn't remember it that way when I learned. So I took a look, and the first one is in Bereshis. I'm just going to read it to you. You don't have to fumble through, but it's in Bereshis, Perek Yud Beis, Pasuk Yud Aleph. So it's Bereshis 12:11, and it says. Okay, and it says, Vahi kasher hikriv lavo Mitzrayma, when they came close to Egypt, Vayomer el Sarah Yishto, he said to Sarah, his wife, Hineina yadati ki isha yifas ma're'at. He suddenly realized that she was a beautiful woman, and so there's a lot of discussion about that he never knew before, that maybe she was so modest that he never saw her, whatever. But anyway, so Rashi says over there that he says that there's a medrash and Haggadah that he recognized that she was beautiful, and he says that what they would do, he says, Achshav anu bayim bein anoshim shechorim umuchorim. Now we're coming to a place where there are black, ugly people, and when they see you, it's going to be trouble. So okay, so that one I gave him, he got that. But the second one, when he's talking about Tzipporah, that's in Bamidbar, and it's in Perek Yud Beis, Pasuk Aleph. So that's in Bamidbar 12:1. In Bahaloscha, exactly right, said the Baal Koreh. And the Pasuk says, Vatadaber Miriam v'Aaron b'Moshe. So Miriam and Aaron spoke about Moshe. Alodosa Isha Kushis Asher Lokach, on the Ethiopian woman that he took, Ki Isha Kushis Lokach, because he took this woman. So they were critical of Moshe because of the fact that he had to be on call basically for God 24 hours a day, separated himself from his wife, and so they were, they had comments to make about that. But anyway, so if you look at the Onkelos, the Targum, he says Malalas Miriam Aaron Moshe, that they gossip basically about Aaron and Miriam about Moshe. al Esek Itza Shapirta Dinasif, on the beautiful woman that he married. Shapir means good, appropriate, right? That he married, it says, Ari Itza Shapirta Dinasif Rachok, that he separated himself from this beautiful woman. And Rashi on the same pasuk says, Alodos Isha, Alodos, because he's separated from him. He says, Ki Isha Kushis Lokach, because he took this Kushis, this Ethiopian woman. So Rashi says, Mal Talmud Lomer, what is it coming to teach us? El Yesh Lach Isha Na'a B'Yafya V'Eina Na'a B'Mnaseha. So they're saying that she's beautiful, but not in her deeds. But Maseha V'Lo B'Yafya. So basically he's saying that everybody knows that the Ethiopian women were beautiful women. So here's Rashi, who, with the first case, they were not, but here's a dark-skinned person who is considered beautiful. So why am I pointing this out? We're supposed to be talking about Baba Basra, and we'll continue. Is that whenever you can, to the best you can, look it up yourself. Don't trust what somebody says to you, because people are going to stand in front of you, going to say all kinds of things, and sometimes it makes sense, sometimes maybe not. And the best way to find out for yourself is, if you can, is to go and look at the primary source. Thank you, and we'll continue next week.